With the trade deadline now passed, it's interesting to go look at who you can acquire in your fantasy football league. And Demaryius Thomas is the number one guy I'm targeting. No longer having to deal with the likes of Tebow, Keenum, Lynch, and Osweiler, not to mention Simeon. Demaryius Thomas now has Deshaun Watson throwing him the ball. With Hopkins on the other side of the field, expect plenty of attention to go that way, and for Thomas to have a huge second half of the season. The four-time Pro Bowler is primed for a breakout second half. On the other side, Cortland Sutton is the beneficiary of Thomas moving to Houston. The talented rookie out of SMU had 22 total touchdowns receptions over the last 2 seasons at SMU and is averaging 19 yards per catch in his rookie campaign. He's easily my number one waiver ad this week and someone I target in the trade market, as he's going to be an explosive player in the second half. And another winner of the trade deadline is Kenny Golladay, who now assumes the number one receiver position in Detroit. More targets, yards, and touchdowns are coming his way with Golden Tate now in Philadelphia. And there's Marlon Mack, the talented Colts running back who's put up back-to-back huge efforts against the Bills and the Raiders. It sure looks as if they've found their solid running game now, with Mack going over 100 yards in each of his last 2 games. I'd certainly trade a wide receiver of a T.Y. Hilton caliber to go get his teammate, Marlon Mack. And there's other guys that you want to trade this week. Kenyon Drake is one of them. He had a huge game against the Texans, but to me, he's someone that you could sell high and get a really solid running back for. Look, Adam Gase still doesn't know how to properly run an offense, and despite the fact that Drake has done really well in the last few weeks, I'm not sold that he's going to be the main guy down the stretch, with Frank Gore and Kalen Ballage still on the roster. And then there's Jarvis Landry, who's just been too hit or miss for me. He's had huge weeks and then duds. Now, with Todd Haley out, Hugh Jackson out, who knows what's going to happen in Cleveland. To me, it's too much of a risk to have him, and if you could get someone that's more steady week to week than Mr. Landry, you make the move. There's plenty of guys to start and sit this week, including Derek Carr, Tariq Cohen, Adrian Peterson, Devin Funchess, and David Moore, who's become a really solid complement to Doug Baldwin at receiver in Seattle. But let's talk about Derek Carr, who's at a tasty Thursday night matchup against the 49ers. Regardless of what you think of Carr and whether he's the future at quarterback for the Raiders, they're constantly going to be giving up points and playing from behind. That's the recipe for beauty in fantasy points leagues, where you're going to get garbage time points, throwing points, any points throughout the day. Look, the Colts put up 42 on the Raiders this past weekend, and he chucked it all over the field. Forget about Amari Cooper going to the Cowboys. There's enough receivers that are going to make plays on this offense for Carr, and I like him moving forward. And then you got the ageless Adrian Peterson, who had another enormous performance against the Giants. Against a terrible rush defense in the Falcons, I expect Peterson to have another huge afternoon. He's going to go over 100 yards and score. And to me, in a lot of leagues where he's getting undervalued because of his age, you can certainly pick him up and play him this week. Then you got guys that you want to bench, including Calvin Ridley and Aaron Jones, against a tough rush defense with the Patriots. But the first guy I want to talk about is Ryan Fitzpatrick. It's a great story that he's back, and the Fitzmagic is back for the Bucs. But against a very talented Panthers defense, he's just someone I don't feel like playing or streaming this week. The Panthers have done a great job in recent weeks about shutting down the opposing quarterback, including Carson Wentz. So to me, this is a spot to bench Ryan Fitzpatrick. Then you got James Conner, who's had an electric season for the Steelers. There's no doubt that he has played just as well as Le'Veon Bell could have ever played this season. But to me, against a tough Ravens defense, you've got to sit him in this week's format. This is a rivalry game. We've already seen how the Ravens have slowed him down this season. So to me, James Conner's a guy you want to bench moving forward. And remember, All Out Blitz, Sunday, 11:45 a.m. Eastern on Facebook.com/WatchPhantom. Like our YouTube channel, and plenty more content throughout the week on Phantom Sports on Facebook.